Top of the morning to you, laddies. It's March 27th, and this is SimWorld Today. I am Marsh, joined for the first time in the SimWorld Today booth by Siege. Siege, good morning. How are we doing this fine morning?
Good morning. We're doing great. We woke up. It's March 27th, and I'm excited for the day.
Nothing better than a March 27th in Florida, am I right?
Isn't that the truth?
Can't be wrong. Can't be wrong. All right, we got a plate full of action. SimWorld Prep, loaded night last night. Some SWFL, but we're starting in the association. Austin Reeves, a triple-double. Anthony Davis, a double-double, 30-plus, 20-plus rebounds, points. No LeBron James, didn't matter as the Bucks fall in overtime to the Lakers, double overtime, including Giannis missing a couple clutch free throws there in the second overtime period. Siege, are the Lakers for real? I think everyone's asking this. Do you think they're for real?
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers have plenty of talent on that team. The question is, is Anthony Davis going to stay healthy through playoff run? Can Austin Reeves put up, big numbers consistently, things like that? But then you got LeBron. He didn't play in this game, but they're for real. You never count out a team with LeBron, and there's plenty of talent surrounding him. So yeah, I would say, to answer the question bluntly, yeah, they're for real. They are for real.
I'm with you on the LeBron. He's in Patrick Mahomes territory for me. I'm not going to outwardly pick against LeBron James just because of his track record of success. They're hyper reliant on D'Angelo Russell, who you never know what you're going to get out of him night to night. You're right on the Anthony Davis, although we keep wanting to talk, hey, Anthony Davis, walking injury report waiting to happen. Guy's been healthy all season long, and the one time he departed, when you think it's a scare, like the poke in the eye against the Warriors, really, he's right back. He's actually had an incredible season. But I think the difference maker is Austin Reeves. If you can get you don't need a triple double out of Austin Reeves every night, but if you could get consistent contributions from Austin Reeves that are 18 to 22 points per game, that's something that a lot of these other teams, that one of which we'll get to in 1 second, they don't have. And that's what the Lakers do. So do I think they're going to win a championship? I said this emphatically last night. I think Denver's winning the championship. But I'm not going to want to play them in the opening round if I'm, let's say, Minnesota, or if I am Oklahoma City and I've got to deal with LeBron James in my return to being a relevant basketball team.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more, especially if you think about the idea of the Lakers potentially being in the play-in games. It's like you got one chance, one game, maybe two games, depending on the seeding, to make it into the playoffs, and you got to play LeBron in a one-game, Game 7 type game, win or go home. I don't want to see him there. And yeah, if I'm the Thunder, I'm a young team. I'm doing really good. I'm one of the top seeds, and I got to play LeBron James as a reward for that. It's not really fair. It's not really fair.
We're going to move to the other team at the bottom of the planet, and I'd like to just put this out there. The SWBA slate was light last night, hence why we're going to be talking about the 9 and 10 teams in the West. This isn't going to be the going forward, and I promise you this was not my decision to talk about Golden State taking down Miami on the road. No Jimmy Butler, worth noting. I want to push back as much as I can on any Warriors propaganda. No Jimmy Butler for the Miami Heat, and the Warriors are actually a relevant basketball team on the road. What do we care? I think this is the story of the Golden State Warriors season. They win games, particularly, like I said, on the road, but they do it enough to make you think there's something there. Good night from Klay Thompson. He's reinserted back into the starting lineup. But this is a roster unlike LeBron James-led Lakers, where I don't know who the number 2 is. As much as I love Jonathan Kuminga, and I think he could be, I don't think this team has the depth to make a run. And right now, we should be really worried about Houston coming up behind them, who did not play. But let's go to Miami. I'll let you talk about them. Are they good enough to actually make another run, or are we just looking at the typical Miami Heat that look really good in the spring and then fall apart?
They're good enough to make a run, depending on matchups they get. But it's not a serious run. It's not you take it serious. It's a maybe they spoil a couple other teams off or postseasons, but they don't have a chance at winning it. That's just the truth to me. It just is. But they could play spoiler for quite a few teams. They've played spoilers for the Bucks before. They could do it again. They've played spoilers for a lot of teams in the East. That they can do. Can they make a run and win it all? No. Can they be a spoiler? Definitely.
This is the cyclical process of the Miami Heat. They're bad. We question their validity. We make fun of the Heat culture. That's the winter and early spring. By mid-spring, Jimmy Butler starts playing again. We start saying, well, they're frisky. And then come late spring, early summer, we say, wow, where has it been all year? And then they inevitably will bow out to a better basketball team. Moving gears, free agent signings in the SWFL continue to slowly trick in Tre'Davious White to the Los Angeles Rams, bolstering their secondary. Is it going to matter, Siege, in Los Angeles for the Rams getting White?
No. I mean, to be honest, look, Tre'Davious White, he's a pretty big name. He's getting a little older. He's not quite as relevant of a cornerback as I think he was a few years ago. Being said, he's still super talented. I think, though, you got to be realistic when you lose a guy like Aaron Donald in the middle of your defense who really has been your defense. As long as he's been there, he's the kind of player that you are in full build mode for that defense. Maybe not a team as a whole, although I think they're in rebuild mode for that team as well, or they should be. But they are absolutely in rebuild mode for that defense. And if nothing else, Tre'Davious White is a big name in the SWFL as a defensive back who will maybe cause a little bit of excitement. But no, he doesn't move the needle when you just lost a guy like Aaron Donald.
Yeah, this second or the last highlight that we saw there of Tre'Davious White dropping the interception is exactly how I feel about this signing. Yeah, it's sick. It's an incomplete pass, but we didn't get the ball back. Yeah, it's sick. It's a good corner. Aaron Donald's not walking through that door, and until he is, and he's not going to, that's the loss, man. I mean, Aaron Donald was the guy that I think this generation is going to look back on in an LT type of mentality and say that guy was just a problem. You would tune into the Rams if they're on red zone or if you just feel like putting on a Rams game just to watch him. It's the same way that I treat the Cleveland Browns. I'm there to watch Myles Garrett. Whatever happens on the offensive side of the ball, so be it. But I want to see Myles Garrett going to work. Yeah, this is a good one. I think it hurts the Bills. They continue to just leak talent from that roster. It's the perpetual challenge of paying the quarterback. I know that the cap continues to rise in the SWFL, but until teams stop paying quarterbacks $500 million, which they shouldn't, it's what they're worth, you're just never going to be able to build a competent roster around this group. But I think it's fascinating to me. The Rams are somehow still relevant, despite the fact that they literally said, "Picks be damned. We're moving all of them. F them picks, and we're gonna win a Super Bowl. And then whatever happens, happens. And we're gonna deal with these Sean McVay retirement rumors." Yet here they are, a season to go, making the playoffs, pushing the Rams in the opening round, a chance to go to the second round of the playoffs, even though the roster around Matthew Stafford and Matthew Stafford himself just isn't at peak form, somehow they're still relevant. So I'm not just going to suddenly start counting them out as long as the Wonderkind is still at the helm.
Yeah, I'm honestly with you on that. Matthew Stafford has been underrated his whole career, and I don't think that'll change this year. He is one of the better quarterbacks in the SWFL, and I still think he's been that way for most of his career. Cooper Kupp is still a great wide receiver. We saw Puka Nacua kind of come out and be a new version of Cooper Kupp last year. It's the density of targets that they're able to give their receivers that's really impressive. And you talk about how they stay relevant after going all in on that year for a Super Bowl. I think how they do it is Sean McVay can run a team. I really do think you have to contribute a lot of it to him. I think you contribute a lot to Matthew Stafford and the way that he makes receivers look so good. I mean, not that he had to make Megatron look good back in Detroit, but you look at how many targets and the density of targets that he got in Detroit with Calvin Johnson, and you look at what Cooper Kupp's been doing, you look at what Puka's been doing. Matthew Stafford is a guy who can make receivers from great to sensational, and he's going to keep doing that. Kyron Williams looks great. No, I'm not going to count this Rams team out at all. At all.
I'm going to send a couple stray bullets up north to San Jose or Santa Clara, because I refuse to call them San Francisco. But the Rams are the proof of what you actually need at quarterback. And now look, Kyle Shanahan should have won at least one Super Bowl, so it's not a complete shot at them. But I don't think there's any. I don't think it's a hot take to say Matthew Stafford is a better quarterback than Brock Purdy, but it shows what you can do and that your ceiling is in fact higher when you have a top 12 compared to a top 17 quarterback. Brock Purdy had a great year last year. He was good. He was an improvement. But they clearly didn't trust him enough in these games in the Super Bowl to not go for it on fourth down twice when they could have put away the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's kind of the proof and concept of you can have a great scheme, you can have all these weapons, but you still need a good quarterback. And Matthew Stafford, in my opinion, is still the better quarterback than Brock Purdy. And that's why the Rams actually have a championship. And we're not talking about the what ifs of two different title runs by the 49ers. Let's move to SimWorld Prep. Full slate of action last night on the gridiron, or not the gridiron, what are we talking about? On the backcourts. Dexter Jackson, we were at this one, Southeast Select, taking down Lakeshore Drive. 28 points from Dexter Jackson, 3 posters, absolutely dominant performance. I know you don't think they're under the radar. I don't think I've ever gone on the record saying I think they're under the radar. They have just been this sneakily consistent, good team, Siege. Now they're starting to put together the highlight wins, the notable wins, and the nationally broadcast wins. Brett Lee continues to cook. He's baking in that kitchen.
Absolutely. I mean, Brett Lee, he's doing what he does, and I think Southeast Select, in the young history of SimWorld Prep, has turned Southeast Select into, I call it a program. It's a program. They're finding consistent success based off a scheme, based off a mentality, based off team cohesion, based off their defense that they always play with. And yes, Dexter Jackson has come out and kind of replaced as the number one scorer after Owen Carvalho went down. But just what we're seeing from Southeast Select is nonstop consistency. I do think they're under the radar. I don't think people are expecting them, but you know how I feel about Southeast Select. I would put my money that they'll be one of the last 4 teams in the race to win this year. I think it's just what they do. They're consistent. They have guys who can score the ball, and their defense, as always, is sensational. Held D'Angelo Jordan to 5 for 15 last night, Marsh? How many teams are doing that?
Well, part of that was his own decision to take 12 3-pointers. But to the counterpoint, Drake Johnson, phenomenal defense on him. I'm with you. I think that we are all going to be attracted. We won't all, but the attraction comes to the teams that have 14 wins right now, 15 wins. But like big losses last night. Cascadia, devastating loss last night. Lakeshore Drive, I wouldn't call this a devastating loss, but a disappointing loss considering where they're at in the season. Southeast, I actually don't think it's a hot take to put them at number 4. I'm not going to ride your coattails on it just yet, but there's definitely a pathway for them to get there. All right, we had 6 games.
Hop on my coattails.
Go ahead. Yeah, close this out real quick.
No, just hop on my coattails. It's fine. Come on.
All right, we'll do. Make sure they're long enough to carry this little butterball around. All right, 6 games in action last night. We kicked off at noon, the North, going on the road to SimWorld Europe, picking up win number 9. Alex Rodriguez, 28 points. Azunda Mazaka, 25-5-5 in the win.
Southeast Select traveled to Chicago Olympus Coliseum, got a 78-70 statement win over Lakeshore Drive. Dexter Jackson, 24 in the win. D'Angelo Jordan held to 16 points. Gabe Pope, 15 points in 19 minutes. Great win for Southeast Select.
Philadelphia making Queen City sick, 29-11 from Monte Parson. Cook young man in a 69, nice 59 win.
Bad Boys Basketball got the win over the Indy Stripes, 69-54. Victor Noggle, 19 points in 22 minutes on 9 for 11 shooting. He looked like an absolute stud last night. The Bad Boys came out with a good win.
3 players in double figures in scoring. That's Hilario, James, and Johnson. Portland Zombie Stars go on the road. They take down a struggling Beyond the Arch team by 11.
Yarny Johnson continues to look like one of the hottest players in SimWorld Prep as SimWorld Atlantis gets an 83-60 win over one of the powerhouses in the league, Cascadia.
All right, that's our wrap-up. We are back. Doubleheader, just the 2 games, no local broadcasts on this Wednesday night. Gotham 5 traveling to Lone Star. Reigning Trays taking on that Beyond the Arch team that just fell tonight. So a pair of games starting at 8 and then 9 p.m. tonight. Thank you, Siege, for joining us. Thank you all for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow morning. Rick Blaze, the Campfire Cast invades SimWorld today. We'll talk to you then. Thanks for joining. As always, SimWorld, the only place you can see the game, be the game.
This has been a presentation of SimWorld Sports.